So as mentioned, in this session, we will talk about how to fill an Excel file dynamically with Power Automate. First of all, a few words about me though, if my slides work. Here we are. Benedikt Bergmann, my name. I'm a Power Platform consultant at CRM Consultona in Stockholm. I am also coming from a developer background, .NET development, have added Angular later, and then moved on to Dynamics CRM CE model-driven apps, and then the Power Platform. So if you want to come in contact with me, I wrote my contact details here, so feel free to contact me there. And let's get into it directly. We have a lot of stuff to cover. So first of all, we want to talk about the scenario. Then the problems that came up during my implementation of it, which solutions I took to tackle it, and then the last stuff will be demo. Hopefully, most of the time will be demo, and yeah. So the scenario was a customer. They used Microsoft Dynamics 365 marketing, and more in detail, the event management part of it. So they had events which were located at certain places, and they had people who were responsible for those places and the events which were held there. But those don't have access to CDS or Dataverse. So they haven't had a clue who has or registered for the event via the marketing portal and so on. So we had to find some solution to give them access to the list of attendees without giving them access to Dataverse, because those were a lot and they don't have licenses. So the solution was that we created the flow, which should populate an Excel file and then send this one via mail to the responsible persons. At the end, we had several flows. Some were on a schedule, like sending out the attendee list a week before the event, 3 days before the event, 1 day before the event, and an hour before. And then we also made it possible that the agent who is sitting within Dataverse was able to trigger them manually for whatever reason they want to have that. And that's the one we will talk about today. So the problems we had is that the Excel connector can't create an Excel file on the fly. So it always needs like a template file where we can copy from and then fill a temp file. So that was the first problem. The other one was different identifiers for the different steps. So the SharePoint steps need different identifiers than the Excel steps. And within the SharePoint steps, there are different steps who need different start points for the path. And this one, since I've implemented this, has changed a bit, because while I implemented this one, it's like already a year ago, I had to request the Graphs API to get the graph identifier for a certain file, or our template file, which we create dynamically. This one is not needed any longer, because they have improved the create file step. So we will take a look at that, and I will pop a link to my blog post about it in the chat later, because there is still the Graph API step, so I have to update my blog post there. So what is the overall solution? So we have created, or I have created a template file. We will take a look at that one. And then we trigger a flow, which takes the template file, creates a temp file with the content of the template file, and loads all the attendees from Dataverse, writes them into our temp file, gets the content of the temp file, and then sends it per email to the responsible person. Let's get into the demo to don't lose time. Let's see, I have to switch my monitor really quick. Here we are. So here we are in my SharePoint, but we will first open the Dataverse, and then I will just trigger our flow because it will take some time to generate the files and so on, so that we can take a look at it later. Not the fastest one either. Yes.
It's always a good idea to have a glass of water next to you. If something is sluggy, then you can just drink it.
Exactly, as it was intended. Yeah, or not. We can also trigger it from here, actually. Cloud flows. Really lacking. There it is. Let's open the flow. So I have created the flow already because if I would like to create it, then I need like an hour, which we don't have. So we will just take a look at the flow, which is already created when it then opens. Sorry for that. Yes. That's a problem with having like demos. When you make a portal is slow, then it's slow. Yeah, so in the meantime, I can just show you what the entities look like. So basically, we have like a demo event where we have a start date and an organization where it's held, a name, and then attendees. And the attendees can have a certain role. In this case, either attendee or speaker. They have a name and an email address, are related to a contact, which have a name and an email address. And the organizations, they have basically here for a demo, it's just a name and an email address to send the attendee list to, which in this case is my own email address. So yeah, I have this demo event, 2 attendees on it, and we want to send like an Excel with all the attendees to me. Here it is. Yes, let's just trigger this flow so that it can run in the background. So like that. Test. Good. First thing done. And switching environments. And let's take a look at the template file. So I created as mentioned, a template file here, which is just an Excel and has name, email, and role. And this one we will fill. And the important part here is that the Excel step needs a table within our Excel file spreadsheet to be able to insert the rows. So I have created a new table which is called event registrations within this one, and the Excel step will then insert all the rows into this table here. So So that's basically the Excel file, which is the template, which will be copied to our temp files, which will be saved in the temp folder here. I have some because I've tested a bit beginning this week and yesterday. So some Excel files are here already. And here also you can see one problem I also had is getting rid of these old files, because the Excel step, which is insert row to table, it is creating a lock on the file for something between 2 hours and a day. So it is a bit of a pain to get rid of those again once they are created. So let's take a look whether this one is run already. It's running at the moment, okay. I can do one thing. Let me just share maybe. Maybe that's faster then. So now, maybe now my PC is a bit faster. So let's go to Cloudflows and create a attendee list. Let's take a look at that one. So if I edit this, the first thing we will see is like this Dataverse legacy connector, because it's the gray one and not the green one. So that's the legacy one, which will be deprecated. But this, when a record is selected step, is not available in the new one. So whenever you want to have like your flows showing up here in this list, you need this legacy step. And you should never ever rename it. Otherwise it will break and will not show the flow in the list. So this one is when the record is selected, and so I specified that it should be on the demo events table, so that it will show up there in the list and can be triggered manually. First thing is we want to get our template file. So we specify our site address and file identifier, which is like just selecting the file from here, which is okay because this file is static. So it's always on the same folder, always at the same place, so we can just choose it, which is different for our temp file, which we will now create, because this one will change for every run. It will be a different one. So next up would be to get our event, because in this trigger, we are sure, or it's safe to assume that you get the ID of the record, but every information could be there, but doesn't have to be there. So it's better to get all the information you really need once more. So we just take get row from Dataverse step and get all the information from the entity we need. In this case, we need like the organization ID and the name of the event, the start date, and the email address of the related organization to be able to send the file to. So next step is to create our temp file. So we again have the site address and then have our folder. We specify a name which is dynamically, so attendee list, and then we have, let's take a look at this one. So we replace the name of the event, and we replace all the spaces with underscores, because we don't want to have spaces in our file name. This could be a problem later for the email send and the Excel step if there is a space in the file name. And then we add like date time stamp because, as mentioned, in the production, then we created those attendee lists several times per event, a day before, a week before, an hour before, and the step create temp file will fail if the file already exists. So it is not enough to have like attendee list and event name. We also need like a timestamp to make it unique. And then we have the file content, which is the output of our get file template. So we load the template's content and put it into our template, in our temp file. So, so then the graphs idea I talked about. So this was necessary previously. So to request the graphs ID, to get the request the graphs API to get the graphs ID of the file we just created, which isn't necessary any longer because they changed this one, and this one outputs now the graphs ID as well, which is really nice. So we save one step. Next one is to list all the event registrations or the attendees, so to say. And there we want to have like the role and the contact, which is related there. And we want to only have those which are related to our event, obviously. So we only take those where the demo event ID is the same as equal to our demo event, which triggered the whole flow. And then we also expand a bit of information because we want to have the full name and email address of the contact, so that we are able to put it into the list as well. And those here, and they can be created with the XML toolbox and the Fetch XML builder from Jonas. And so there you can just specify which fields you want to have, which related entities, and which fields from there, and what should be the filter, and so on and so forth. And then you just click on Show Power Automate strings, and you can copy it from there. So you don't have to remember how to write those. There are tools to create those for you. Then we loop over all of the event registrations we have gotten from the system. Could be 1, 2, or many more. Hopefully many more in the future for events. First of all, we have to compose our row in JSON. So because our template file is dynamically, the step here isn't able to show which columns they are. So let's try to fix that. So let's say so that you see what I mean. So if I would just choose our template here, it would give me a list of possible tables. We only have the event registrations, and then it would show me like which columns are there, name and email and role. So I could say here, okay, I would like to add my contact's full name, like that. But since it's dynamically, that's not possible. So we can't specify a file name directly. So we have to specify the graphs ID, which comes as mentioned from the create temp file. And then the table should be custom value, event registrations. And then it will just show, okay, a row, because it doesn't know, it can't know what columns are there. So it just will say, okay, give me a JSON for the row, and I will try to import it while running. So that's why we compose our row up here. And there we specify all the rows or columns there are, name, email, and role. And then we insert the stuff we want to have there. Like for name, it's the full name of the contact. For email, it's the email address of the contact. And for role, it's the formatted value of the option set. So that we not just get like the identifier, but the real display name. So this we are doing for every event registration we have. Then we have a delay of 2 minutes because this add a row step of the Excel connector, it's asynchronous. So it could be that this one is still running while our flow is already ahead of time, so to say. So we have to wait 2 minutes to be sure that all of those triggered steps are ready and we don't miss any row in the Excel file. And then everything which is left is getting the content of our temp file again and sending it via email to our responsible person. So up here too, we have specified the email address of the organizer of our event, which we got earlier. I've written some text which will appear in the email with the event name and the start date in a formatted value. Again, like year, month, day, hour, minutes, and seconds. And then we have attached our file. So the name and the content which we have gotten up here. So let's see whether the file has arrived. So yes, it has. So let me just open the Excel file and share that with you. Where are we? Here. So you can see that's the file I've gotten. It's filled with the 2 persons we had in our event and their email address, their names, and which role they had. Like not only the identifier, but the real display name, so to say, attendee and speaker. So this one would have been sent to the organizer on the location by a button click. And you could also have, or what we did in the real implementation was having one child flow, which is doing like create all the stuff, creating the file and so on. And then several parent flows which triggered the child flow on certain occasions, like one which was on a schedule and one which was with this button, press button we have seen now.
I think that's one of the problems in Power Automate currently, that you can't have multiple triggers in one flow.
Yeah.
Then you have to do that, have multiple parent flows, and then one child flow that actually does the work.
Yeah, exactly. And then you might have a problem with the flow runs, because this one adds a flow run. And depending on how often you run your flow, this could be a problem. And depending on the license you have, for sure. But yeah, so this one has to be taken in consideration. Yeah, the other option would have been to copy all this to both of the flows, but then it's like the manageability is getting way worse, because then if you change something, you have to change it in 2 flows. So yeah, it's like you have to take a look. Either manageability is good or the amount of flows you run. So yeah.
Hey, since you have the flow open, I have a question.
Yes.
You had those emojis or whatever. Did you in some one of them?
So
how did you get those to be displayed there?
Where are we now?
Maybe it was in that loop.
Yeah, those here.
Yeah.
Actually, it's my development environment in our organization. So I have a bunch of different stuff, like my own PCFs and all of that. And one thing I also have is like a CRM solution from a different MVP from America, Rapid Start CRM, just to test it out. And he has added a lot of emojis everywhere. So it's coming from there, because I have the managed solution installed. But it's not that hard. Like I haven't done it, but there is a website which can create emojis like in text for you, and you just have to copy the text and paste it into your environment, and then you have emojis there. So yeah, let me.
But I just didn't realize that you can actually see them in the flow as well, in the flow designer.
Yeah, the flow takes just the display name.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so he has added a few emojis here and there.
Yeah.
No, but exactly the flow always takes the display name and also in the language you have configured in the environment, which could be a bit confusing in sometimes, I think. But yeah, that's how it is. So if your user has, like, for example, English, it will take in English. If your user has Swedish or Finnish or whatever, then the display names will be shown here in the certain or in this language you have. Yeah. Yes, so this was how the flow is built. Here's the flow run we had. Let's see. Yeah, so here we see the first one, like the input and output, and then the second person where we have processed them, added them to the Excel. Yeah, so that's basically the flow. I can, as mentioned, I can pop the link to my blog post about it.
Yeah, do that
as well. So if there are questions, you can take a look there, or feel free to contact me anytime. Let's just reshare my slides really quick.
How many attendees did you have in your customer case? Now you had only 2, but how much data did you process?
So they are like Europe's biggest school company. So they have private schools all over the place in Europe, mostly in the Nordics and in Germany. And what they have used it for was like open house registrations. So it depends on the city and the school, but it could have been several hundreds.
Yeah. So did you ever run into problems with parallels because the for each loop actually runs in parallel?
No, that worked quite smooth, to be honest.
You didn't have to tweak you can tweak the maximum number of parallel.
No, that's worked quite well. As mentioned, the only thing was the delay. So we had some occasions in the beginning where people weren't in the list but registered in the system, and that was because the Excel steps weren't ready yet. Yeah, and then there it was dependent. So sometimes it was just one person, sometimes there were 10 that were missing. So it depends on how fast the flow is really running. Yeah. Yes.
All right, thanks, Benedikt. That was really good. I really like the dynamic point of view. I didn't even know that you can actually have dynamic columns in the Excel row import.
Yeah, I had to figure that out as well.
Yeah.